Part 66. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 655. After testing out this effect, Wang Ling was really surprised. It is actually very simple to upgrade this elite combat soldier, because the combat effectiveness of this soldier is so strong that it is easy to compete for a large amount of soldier experience. But on the other hand, it is also very difficult for an elite combat soldier to upgrade his level, because each time he upgrades to a higher level, he requires a huge amount of experience in the military type. To upgrade from the veteran level to the elite level, the required military experience is enough to upgrade the conscripts to 5-star special forces or even 7-star aces. To upgrade from the elite level to the special forces level, it can even upgrade the conscripts from novice to soldier king level. From when the special forces are promoted to the ace level, their experience will be huge. However, with the accumulation of this huge amount of military experience, the ace-level elite combat soldiers who have been promoted are completely worthy of this massive military experience. Their combat effectiveness is simply amazing. Due to the restrictions of the system and game rules, Wang Ling's level above the elite level will not be shown to others, but anyone with a discerning eye can see this sudden increase in combat power. After observing this change in the electronic video, General Li Wiki, Xiaoping Wang, Raoski, and even the coalition officers and soldiers watching the battle raised their brows, obviously very surprised. But when this scene fell in the eyes of Allied General Reagan, it made his heart tremble, and he was obviously a little frightened. As for the other members of the frontline coalition offensive force, even though they were in the middle of a war, they could feel Wang Ling's sudden change. The most intuitive impact was that the pressure they faced suddenly dropped sharply. This change also shocked the entire army, and their morale instantly rose. Coupled with Wang Ling's terrifying output, Yuri's troops also suffered great misfortune, and their numbers dropped sharply. After a fierce battle, a whole batch of Yuri's troops were like Qinshui encountering the blazing sun, melting quickly and eventually being completely annihilated. Naturally, during this process, the coalition offensive troops themselves also suffered losses, but compared to the losses of Yuri's troops, they pale into insignificance. In this second batch of large-scale conflicts, the coalition offensive forces ended with an almost complete victory. 2 consecutive large-scale conflicts and 2 consecutive complete victories directly boosted the morale of the entire army and raised their fighting spirit. At this time, all the remaining troops in Yuri's base formed the third batch of charge teams and gradually arrived here. Strike while the iron is hot, Yuri base is ready to fight to the death or else, so why not the coalition forces? As long as these last batch of Yuri troops are defeated, half of the entire Yuri base will collapse. Boom, boom, boom. Boom boom boom. Similar to the previous 2 battles, shortly afterwards, the front row of armed helicopters fired cannons from a long distance, followed by the middle row of armed helicopters. Facing this group of Yuri troops, Wang Ling also wanted to test the ultimate range of the 7-star ace-level elite combat soldiers, so he kept watching. As a result, before the rear armed helicopter fired, Wang Ling had already touched when this group of Yuri troops arrived. They started fighting with their guns raised. The entire group of Yuri troops immediately received a wake-up call and suffered a large number of losses. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. And taking advantage of the convenience of this ultra-long range, Wang Ling fired with abandon. His troop clearing efficiency was so high that it was even higher than the front and middle rows of armed helicopters combined. He was alone, plus the 2 rows. The armed helicopters have blocked almost the entire group of Yuri troops from this range area. Anyone who enters will be killed instantly. During the continuous crazy output, Wang Ling was also constantly calculating. His latest promotion to the ace-level elite combat soldier did give Wang Ling a certain surprise in terms of range. Compared with the 5-star special forces level, it was about 20% higher. Don't underestimate the 20% range. After all, This is estimated based on 5-star special forces. With the 20% range, Wang Ling's current shooting distance can even compete with that of a virus sniper. Of course, it's just a competition. In fact, according to Wang Ling's estimation, ordinary level virus snipers probably have this range. This situation is a bit interesting, and of course it is not an exaggeration to say it is embarrassing. To compare, if Wang Ling were to challenge a virus sniper from a distance now, at the same range, the competition would be who had the fastest reaction speed and fired first. In this regard, it is naturally impossible for ordinary virus snipers to compare with Wang Ling. But what if there are 4 or 5 virus snipers working together? In that case, Wang Ling would be in danger. Indeed, Wang Ling's vitality is now so strong that an ordinary virus sniper would have to hit him 3 or 4 times to kill him, but Wang Ling can easily kill the virus sniper instantly. However, if 4 or 5 virus snipers shot at Wang Ling at the same distance, no matter how strong Wang Ling was, they would not be able to parry them. Moreover, if he was facing a veteran level or even elite level virus sniper, Wang Ling would still have to turn around and run away. Therefore, by being promoted to the ace level, Wang Ling has indeed weakened the threat of virus snipers to him to a certain extent, but this threat has not been completely eliminated, and he must still pay attention to it in future battles. But overall, this promotion has indeed pushed Wang Ling's combat effectiveness to an unprecedented peak stage. Of course, with subsequent promotions, this peak height will continue to be exceeded, but now, Wang Ling's combat power is enough to dominate a battlefield. This last batch of Yuri troops can be said to be very unlucky. To catch Wang Ling in such a state, the number of casualties is simply shocking. Coupled with the bombardment from armed helicopters, when the coalition offensive forces arrived, the number of casualties had reached a very exaggerated level, with almost only 30 to 40% of the troops and tanks remaining. During this process, there were naturally magneto-electric tanks that caused trouble, adsorbing apocalypse tanks and even armed helicopters from a distance. However, under Wang Ling's order, the front row armed helicopters focused on the magneto-electric tanks and did not let them go on the whole too long. As for the remaining Yuri troops, it's easy to deal with them, just do it. On the way forward, about 70% of them were wiped out by Wang Ling and armed helicopters. Now there were more tanks and infantry from the coalition offensive force blocking them. The remaining 30% of the troops were unable to withstand it. Not long after the close-range battle began, they were all killed. Well done. Good. Well done. Ha ha ha, so happy. After seeing the scene in the electronic video, all the officers and soldiers watching the battle in the coalition base, including the commander, became excited and cheered. But in the Allied base, General Reagan couldn't help but take a few deep breaths, and murmured to himself with some reluctance, "Such a large number of Yuri troops are charging together, but they can't help but Wang Ling's team. How strong is it now? Our Allied forces mobilized a large number of troops and failed to capture the Yuri base. Unexpectedly, it fell into the hands of the coalition Wang Ling. This Yuri base is no longer viable." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 656. That's right, at this point in the battle, even the Allies had to admit that Yuri's base on the top of the mountain had failed. 3 large groups of Yuri troops in succession can be said to have been all the troops accumulated in the Yuri base on the top of the mountain. However, in these 3 consecutive battles, they were all lost. The originally powerful Yuri base on the top of the mountain has now lost all its defenders, leaving only defensive buildings. It is like a tiger that has lost its claws and only its strong body. Naturally, as far as the remaining defensive buildings are concerned, it is still difficult for ordinary troops to attack. If not, they may send a large amount of funds to Yuri base for no reason. However, Wang Ling would not make such a mistake. When it comes to who is the smartest person on the battlefield, Wang Ling would choose the second one. Whoever wants to choose the first one has to weigh it carefully. After annihilating all the guarding troops in Yuri's base, Wang Ling did not let the attacking troops complain for too long and quickly issued the attack order. Of course, even when faced with Yuri's base in this state, Wang Ling did not attack rashly. From the beginning to the end, he always played in a vulgar and trivial manner. The mind control tower can control ordinary coalition offensive troops and cannot attack by force, so Wang Ling ordered armed helicopters to deploy from a distance to attack the mind control tower. After clearing the mind control tower, ground troops, mainly Apocalypse tanks, stepped forward to demolish the Getter cannon and tank bunkers. During this process, Wang Ling did not intervene much other than directing the battle. After all, he has successfully advanced to the ace level. It would be a drop in the bucket to grab the remaining experience. It is better to leave it to other troops and take the opportunity to improve. A level down. However, under his cunning command, even if he was not personally involved, Yuri base would not be in trouble. The mind control towers were blown up one after another, the Getter cannons and tank bunkers were demolished one after another, and the overall battle situation was one-sided. All the troops who were ordered to attack were sparing no effort to compete for the experience of these arms. In the following period, with the destruction of a large number of buildings in Yuri base, a group of elite troops were also spawned in the coalition offensive troops, including tanks, soldiers, and also gunships. Naturally, even in this targeted mopping up attack, there were several unlucky conscripts in the coalition offensive force who were bitten and killed by the Getter cannon. However, Wang Ling was not surprised. After all, when there is a war, there are sacrifices. Under the overall situation of war, you can't just live like this for the rest of your life under Wang Ling's protection, right? Chief, we lost. Just as the attack team led by Wang Ling was in full swing and almost turned the entire Yuri base upside down, the command post of the Yuri base was also buzzing with anxiety. A deputy said in a panic, "Everyone, all the troops are dead. All the defensive buildings have been demolished. Even the main buildings have been demolished. Chief, we are finished." The other deputy also stared anxiously, "What should I do, what should I do? Are I going to die here? I don't want to die, but looking at the posture of these coalition forces, it's obvious that they won't let us go. Then what should we do? Now we have no power to resist at all, can we only wait to die? It's so noisy." Several deputies spoke to each other with despair in their tone, but after a few words in a row, the commander became angry, slapped the control panel, and roared, "Look at you Dexing, warriors of my spiritual empire, are you still afraid of death? Don't forget the goal of our spiritual empire, our wishes and our ambitions. In order to achieve this goal, sacrifice is inevitable. Today is just our turn. Do you want to join the battlefield? Don't you have the determination to live your life to the point of death?" To be honest, Commander Yuri's impromptu rants are not convincing at all. They are all truth. Who among the people present does not know this? However, due to the commander's majesty, no one dared to talk nonsense anymore. After a while, a deputy asked, "Chief, are we just waiting to die?" Commander Yuri took a few breaths, "What else can we do? There is no other way. By the way, has the video of this bastard been sent to Leader Yuri?" Another deputy quickly replied, "Sent, Chief." However, Chief Yuri did not reply. "Really? Ahem. Never mind, after all, we have tried our best for the Empire of the Soul." Commander Yuri let out a long sigh of regret, stared at the crazily destroying coalition forces in the electronic video, sneered, and reached out to a red button on the edge. "Yes, we lost. But you can't even think of tarnishing my last victory. Dignity. The Empire of the Soul will eventually rule this land." After saying that, he pressed it directly with one hand. Boom boom boom. Da da da. "Go on, demolish it for me, no one is left, not a single soldier is spared. Within the Yuri base on the top of the mountain, Wang Ling, through his extremely cunning command, destroyed all the defensive buildings in the Yuri base at a very small cost. Then he simply gave up and let the attacking troops attack other main buildings. It belongs to whoever grabs it. Under this order, this group of attacking troops went crazy, scrambling to dismantle the entire Yuri base. The speed was so fast that Wang Ling was a little surprised. But when the troops demolished half of the building, boom, boom boom boom, the Yuri base command post suddenly exploded. But this explosion seemed to trigger a chain reaction, and then other remaining buildings in the base also exploded one after another. In just a few seconds, all the remaining buildings exploded, and a Yuri recruit was killed. There is nothing left. The originally mighty and powerful Yuri base on the top of the mountain is now only a ruin, and it gradually begins to disappear under the rules of the system. But the deep pits on the ground seem to still tell the tragedy of this battle. The Yuri base on the top of the mountain was finally completely destroyed. However, the last series of explosions in Yuri's base also made Wang Ling stunned for a while. After he recovered, he couldn't help but spat, "Why are you so desperate? Can't you give me more military experience? You have to give up so quickly. Isn't it? When playing games, when you know that the situation is not good and you are about to lose, you can admit defeat. Naturally, the enemy also has it. However, unless forced to a certain extent, the average enemy army will not easily admit defeat. But now this base and command post clearly still exist, and even the tank factory just blew itself up before it could be destroyed. If the enemy army surrenders, it should be a good thing for Wang Ling, but Wang Ling is not happy because the explosions are all military experience. If they are given to the coalition forces, how many elite warriors can be created? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 657. The entire Yuri base has been forced into a desperate situation and has to self-destruct to save the last dignity, but Wang Ling is still thinking about the experience of those soldiers, and even cursed for it. If the deceased commander of Yuri base knew about this, I don't know if he would be angry to death and angry to death. This guy is so greedy. Damn, he actually blew himself up. Haha, in this case, we will win directly. Win. Win. Ha ha ha. Oh. 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 Dot. As for the other members of the coalition's offensive force, they were not as shameless as Wang Ling. It was not a loss for them to lose some military experience in exchange for a direct victory in the entire battle. Ever since, after seeing Yuri's base self-destruction, they all started cheering after being stunned for a while. Hey, I won. Awesome. Hey, such a fierce and exciting battle, I wish I could participate in it myself. Ha ha ha, we won. The last Yuri base was also pushed, we won. Dot. Not only the frontline troops, but also the officers and soldiers watching the battle in the holy city's Dongfang castle were all happy and cheering. Even the cheers could be heard from the direction of the Allied forces. After all, this is a victory for the coalition forces. Not only the coalition forces, but other allies are also the beneficiaries. Having Wang Ling here is really a great blessing for our coalition. Ha ha ha, you won this battle beautifully. In this way, all 3 Yuri bases in the Holy City war zone have been destroyed, and the entire war zone has been completely pacified. Not bad. Yuri's base on the top of the mountain is easy to defend but difficult to attack. Unexpectedly, it was attacked. In this battle, not only Wang Ling's firepower, but also the armed helicopters played a decisive role. Has the video of this battle been burned? General, it's already carved. Okay, send it to PoortoRich. This video can not only be used as a combat teaching video for armed helicopters, but it can also boost the morale of our army. Show it to be proud. Yes, General. In the coalition command post, General Lewicki and 3 others were also very happy. They were commenting on the quality of the war. They had even recorded a video and were preparing to report it to the superiors. However, correspondingly, General Reagan in the Allied command post looked a little strange. The old general's face was quite ugly at first, even a little gloomy. Seeing him like this, the other deputies did not dare to say anything for a while. But after a period of time, General Horegin laughed to himself, "Allied forces, you are so powerful. Wang Ling, you are a smart boy. You will win this battle beautifully." General Reagan had previously expressed concerns about Wang Ling's strength, and even intentionally or unintentionally tried to embarrass the coalition forces. However, in this battle, he rarely gave a positive affirmation, which shows how great the impact of this battle was. In fact, this battle is really of great significance. Once the last Yuri base is demolished, the entire Holy City war zone will be calmed down. Looking at it, the coalition forces and the Allied forces are united against the Seoul Empire. There are currently several war zones in full swing. Although these war zones have varying degrees of casualties and results, none of them can be calmed down. However, the Holy City war zone took the lead and fired the first shot of a great victory. This outstanding record was enough to make the 2 bases in the Holy City war zone proud. Indeed, in this battle, the Allied offensive played a decisive role, but after all, the Allied forces acted as the main force when attacking the Yuri base at the foot of the mountain. It can be said that they have made great efforts and are proud of their faces. Compared with this, the vigilance and dissatisfaction with Wang Ling are no longer worth worrying about as much as this record. After the praise, General Reagan did not miss the opportunity to take credit and quickly reported the battle situation to General Bob. Naturally, the reporting process will inevitably change some processes and exaggerate the role of some Allied forces in the battle. However, this is generally innocuous. Oh. 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 Ha ha ha. At Yuri's base on the top of the former mountain top of the front line, the coalition offensive troops were still cheering. As members of the coalition, they knew the significance of this battle very well. They personally participated in this battle and won the final victory. They felt particularly happy. Wang Ling watched the group of people chattering for a long time, not only bursting into laughter. Before changing, he would have just let this group of people cheer and cheer for a while, and he would interrupt midway. But now, the entire Holy City war zone has been pacified, and all 3 Yuri bases have been destroyed. Without this enemy, if there is a threat from the army, then there is no need to spoil the fun if you act more recklessly. Wang Ling. Just as Wang Ling was watching the group of people cheering, someone suddenly called his name. When he turned around, he saw that it was Chen Tong, the leader of the Eagle team. Seeing Wang Ling's eyes, Chen Tong actually gave a military salute respectfully, and Wang Ling subconsciously returned the salute. After the 2 sides saluted, Chen Tong said, "This battle was a blast. I haven't fought so happily for a long time since the decisive battle with the Allies." Wang Ling smiled and said nothing, while Chen Tong continued, "If the attacking force is the Eagle Group and is commanded by me, ask yourself, let alone fighting so freely, I am afraid it will be difficult for us to win even this battle. There is even the possibility of the entire army being annihilated. So in the final analysis, the victory now is all due to you. Wang Ling, thank you for allowing me to participate in this battle. Why don't you thank me? It's time to see me outside." Wang Ling punched him. Chen Tong smiled sadly, looked at the other soldiers who were still cheering, and after a while he sighed leisurely and said, "I have been complaining before, why does the general value you so much, and you have to command several attacks? Pioneer, After this battle, I have personally experienced the difference between you and me, and I can't help but be convinced. Oh? What's the difference? Tell me about it. When Wang Ling heard this, he became more interested and raised his eyebrows and asked. Chen Tong replied, in terms of strategy and tactics, you are more flexible than me. You also know better than me about the enemies and our own arms and buildings. You can quickly think of ways to restrain yourself. This is one point. Of course, strategic and tactical, this is all possible. Those who are not familiar with it can also gradually become familiar with it, so this point is secondary. The most important point is that your perverted combat power is really too strong. Many of your tactics are actually impossible in my opinion. The reason for copying is your perverted firepower, which other arms cannot make up for. After a pause, Chen Tong continued, in these tough battles, although your tactics play a leading role, in fact, your personal firepower also plays a decisive role. In my impression, there are still many factors involved in winning a war, and it is impossible to turn the tide with the strength of one person. However, you, this pervert, have gradually broken my understanding. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 658. Although Chen Tong humbly asked Wang Ling for advice twice, in fact, he was arrogant in his bones. But now such an arrogant person also expressed his sincere praise for Wang Ling, which shows how much influence this joint battle has on Chen Tong. In fact, it's no wonder that Chen Tong has such emotion. After all, Wang Ling's fighting ability is indeed too abnormal. Because of his status as a player, Wang Ling can not only transform into multiple arms through system functions, but each of the arms can even be upgraded to the level of a 10-star soldier king. The combat effectiveness of a single arm can far exceed that of other similar arms, not to mention that he has multiple types of arms and can be switched at will. This is about other arms. Even if they reach the level of 10-star soldier king, they cannot dominate a battlefield. At most, their combat effectiveness is a few knots better than similar arms. But elite combat soldiers are completely different. This elite combat soldier is itself a heroic unit of the coalition forces, and his existence symbolizes the strongest combat effectiveness of the coalition infantry. In the game, although this type of unit is powerful, it is easy to die in battle when it is at the recruit level. However, when it reaches the veteran level, its combat effectiveness suddenly increases. When it reaches the elite level, it is even too powerful. Even the Apocalypse tank, gradually approaching outside the firepower range of the elite combat soldiers at this level, cannot get close to the elite combat soldiers at all. An infantryman can be so powerful. However, due to game restrictions, the highest level for elite combat soldiers is only the 3-star elite level. However, due to Wang Ling's player status, he has broken this restriction and has now reached the 7-star ace level. His combat power is so strong, it's simply shocking. With such fighting power, Wang Ling alone could gradually control a battlefield. It is true that if they are pure elite combat soldiers, they will always have weaknesses. For example, in terms of air defense, elite combat soldiers will not be able to attack air targets. But the problem is that Wang Ling is not just a single type of soldier. His other major types of soldiers and king-level soldiers transform into each other, but these weaknesses have gradually been weakened. This is still the case now. When the number of units that Wang Ling transforms into increases in the future, this guy's combat effectiveness will definitely grow exponentially. Faced with such a pervert, it's no wonder that even Chen Tong, who is also the leader of the field team, is convinced of Wang Ling. You really think highly of me? After hearing Chen Tong's words, Wang Ling couldn't help but smile. Don't exaggerate me too much. It's the same as what you said before. I am also a human being. If I am injured too seriously, I will die. Chen Tong was already used to Wang Ling's joke-like words. He raised the corners of his mouth slightly, smiled faintly, and then stretched out his fist towards Wang Ling. This battle is over, but the empire of mind is still rampant. Other stations are still in a stalemate, and we will definitely have a series of fierce battles. In the subsequent battles, if possible, I hope we can fight side by side. Even if you give an order, I will execute it. Wang Ling was a little surprised by his attitude, but he did not embarrass Chen Tong. He also smiled, stretched out his fists, and fist bumped, definitely. Oh! 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 Without Wang Ling's restraint, the others were free to indulge in their own free will, and they are still cheering. Not only the soldiers, but also the tanks and vehicles shook their barrels slightly, and the armed helicopters all remained in flight, flying around in the air, each cheering and celebrating in their own way. Regarding this scene, Wang Ling saw it in his eyes, but he was also quite pleased in his heart. Although Wang Ling was the protagonist in this battle, both in terms of tactics and combat, this group of subordinates also accompanied him from birth to death. This comradeship has penetrated into Wang Ling's heart and made him better and better. It is becoming increasingly difficult to let go of this system, this red alert world. Wang Ling, how long has it been, and you're still complaining? Do you still know your last name after having achieved military exploits? Come back to me quickly. Wang Ling let go and wanted these subordinates to indulge as much as they wanted, but there were still people above him. After a while, General Li Weiqi's scolding came from the radio. Of course, this was not meant as a scolding, but there was also a slight smile in the scolding. Wang Ling was now strong-tempered and didn't take it seriously at all. He even laughed and hurriedly accepted the order. Then, he quickly interrupted the group of subordinates and issued a retreat order. The armed helicopters retreated first, and all the conscripts entered the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, following closely behind. The Phantom tank is in the third echelon, followed by the Rhino tank and the Apocalypse tank. Previously, when Wang Ling led troops to march, he usually kept all the troops at the same speed, but after all, this was to prevent the enemy from intercepting and attacking halfway. But now, the Holy City war zone has been calmed down, so what else is there to worry about? If you're quick, go first, if you're slow, go behind. Everyone just goes their own way. After marching for nearly an hour, the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle army successfully returned to the Oriental Castle area and everyone got off the vehicle. General Li Weiqi, on the other hand, is still the same as before. He has already led almost the entire base of officers and soldiers to wait in line here. After seeing Wang Ling and his group appear, the welcome ceremony was very enthusiastic. Wang Ling is the heroic unit of the entire coalition, and these soldiers who go into battle are the heroes of this base. As usual, after the welcome ceremony, there is the investiture ceremony, and today is no exception. This time, the overall military ranks of the officers and soldiers accompanying Wang Ling have been promoted, and some are even more than one level. By the way, the officers and soldiers who participated in the battle before are also included. Even those who have been in the army for a long time have already been promoted according to regulations. The veterans who were automatically promoted when the time came also participated, which was relatively grand. However, this large-scale awarding ceremony, as the number one hero, had nothing to do with Wang Ling. Instead, the soldiers of the Wolf Group had to personally wear their new epaulets. This was not intentional by General Li Weiqi. If Wang Ling's military rank was further advanced, it would be the general level, and General Li Weiqi would not be able to promote Wang Ling on his own. What's more, Wang Ling's status is really special. He is a fighter that PoortoRich is optimistic about. This is an honor, but it is also a pressure. PoortoRich had investigated Wang Ling's promotion history in detail and saw the speed of his promotion. He always believed that this was not conducive to Wang Ling's development and that he still needed more military merit and training, So he was promoted from the rank of senior colonel to a major general, must go through a long period of time and accumulate a lot of military exploits. For this reason, Wang Ling doesn't expect to be promoted at all. When the time comes, it will happen. PoortoRich will not treat him badly anyway. As expected, although Wang Ling was not involved in the awarding ceremony, PoortoRich issued a separate commendation order to Wang Ling that night. There were too many official words in this commendation order. Although it was an honor, Wang Ling didn't care about it. What he cares about is the substantial reward for him in the commendation order, which includes 5 elite-level Apocalypse tanks and 10 elite-level Rhino tanks. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 659. 5 elite Apocalypse tanks and 10 elite Rhino tanks. When Wang Ling heard about this reward, he was stunned for a moment, and then burst into ecstasy. An elite soldier does not have much impact on the development of the battle, but an elite Rhino tank can play a huge role, and an elite Apocalypse tank plays a decisive role. This type of tank performs mediocrely at the recruit level, but after reaching the veteran level, its combat effectiveness increases by a whole level. Once it reaches the elite level, its firepower increases exponentially. When he was in the game, Wang Ling used the coalition camp and charged several Apocalypse tanks to the enemy base. However, he encountered fierce resistance from the enemy. In the end, only one veteran-level Apocalypse with only a trace of health left was left. Tank, but faced the encirclement and suppression of more than 20 allied soldiers. In Wang Ling's view, this situation was a certain death situation. It happened that there was a war situation in the base at that time, so he ignored this place and clicked back to the base page. However, after the war at the base ended, Wang Ling accidentally looked inside the enemy base and discovered that the Apocalypse tank, which he thought was certain to die, actually survived, while all the surrounding allied soldiers were encircling them. But they all died in battle. It turned out that at the moment of life and death, this veteran-level Apocalypse tank finally killed an allied soldier. The accumulated military experience happened to allow it to break through to the elite level. Relying on the explosive increase in firepower, this Apocalypse tank not only he destroyed all the encircling infantry and saved himself. On the contrary, he recovered half of his health during this period of time. A leopard can be seen in a tube. This shows how powerful this elite Apocalypse tank is. But PoortoRich gave him 5 tanks in one go, plus 10 elite-level Rhino tanks. This reward is so generous. Although after such a long period of war training, there are many elite tanks in the Wolf group, but no one can have too many of these elites. Of course, the reward has not arrived yet and is still on the way. After Wang Ling was ecstatic for a while, he fell asleep maintaining this mood. As usual, he spent a day in the real world and returned to the Red Alert world. Although the Apocalypse tanks were powerful and had thick armor, their marching speed was really slow. Wang Ling waited until dusk the next day, and the 15 elite tanks finally arrived belatedly and drove into the eastern castle area, gave it to Wang Ling. After receiving this batch of elite tanks, Wang Ling's coke broke. He stepped forward and touched the body of the elite Apocalypse tank with almost saliva. How could he have the majesty of a team leader and temporary commander in his appearance? The whole one is obsessed with money. Hey, hey, hey. Look, the team leader's stick, why does it look like 250? As a result, when Erlu saw him like this, he actually gathered a group of people to watch the fun and make fun of him. But after Wang Ling heard it, he was scolded and the group of people dispersed. Now, the Holy City war zone has been completely calmed down, and all the rewards have been received. All that's left is to wait for the news. What news? Naturally, it is the subsequent combat area. As a hero-level unit of the coalition forces, Wang Ling was very powerful in combat. He was the first to pacify a major war zone. This was a perfect answer he delivered. With such a powerful combat capability, the coalition forces cannot keep him idle all the time. After pacifying one battlefield, he will soon be assigned to the next battlefield to provide reinforcements. As for what kind of battlefield it is, Wang Ling doesn't know. He just needs to take advantage of this period to rest and be prepared. In fact, even PoortoRich had no idea which battlefield to send Wang Ling to support. After all, the battle situation in all theaters is now very stalemate. However, he was not in a hurry to allocate a battlefield to Wang Ling. He just took advantage of these few days to let the coalition hero have a good rest. This idea coincided with Wang Ling's. Although Wang Ling has been idle these past few days, other war zones are now very lively, with constant battles and mixed joys and sorrows. This is thanks to the intelligence Wang Ling revealed in advance, which helped the coalition and allied forces block the waves of attacks by Yuri's troops. Otherwise, other war zones would not be so stalemate and would have been pushed aside by Yuri's troops long ago. In the Holy City war zone, the video of Wang Ling's last battle was also sent to various war zones in the past few days. On the one hand, he personally taught the use of armed helicopters, and on the other hand, it also boosted morale. Yuri base is not invincible. Not to mention, due to the influence of this video, the morale of soldiers in various war zones has indeed increased a lot in the following days. Even Wang Ling's destructive method of using armed helicopters has also been learned, and even relied on this to fight with the cooperation of the Allied forces. A total of 2 Yuri bases were destroyed. Wang Ling saw all this and was quite pleased. Another boring day. On this day, in the real world, after getting up early in the morning, Wang Ling stretched out, leaned against the window, and stared blankly. After those bad friends left, Wang Ling's life returned to its previous appearance. In the real world, he was alone every day, resting and having fun. Fortunately, Wang Ling had long been accustomed to this kind of life, and he didn't feel lonely at all. Woof woof. What's more, he has a friend accompanying him, such as Xiaohe. When this guy saw Wang Ling getting up, he barked twice and ran directly to Wang Ling's bed. He was a dignified police dog in the red alert world, but in the real world, he could only act coquettishly with Wang Ling every day. If the police dog comrades in the red alert know this, they don't know if they will laugh at this thing. However, Wang Ling enjoyed this feeling very much. Ever since he parted ways with Xiaohe in the world of red alert, he had realized the importance of this friend. Now that he has been resurrected, nothing can happen to Xiaohe. Got it? After being stunned, Wang Ling simply washed up, and then took Xiaohe out for morning exercises. Today's Wang Ling, after intermediate strengthening, his physical fitness has reached an abnormal level. Gradually, he has lost the craziness before. Daily exercise is just a habit. By the way, Xiaohe can also relax and go out to excrete. During these days' morning exercises, Wang Ling would often encounter some fat men on the school playground, running there desperately. These people were all those who had failed to pass the physical fitness test before and had not gone to practice. Taking advantage of these quiet days and no one to laugh at them, they hurriedly exercised and tried to find a physical education teacher in the future and pass this test. Wang Ling was also quite moved when he saw how tired these people were. Although he is not a fat man, he also neglected to exercise before getting the extra-dimensional system. He has the same physique as this group of people. When he sees them, he seems to think of his original self, so he has never laughed at him. He meant it, and even encouraged him every time, so these fat men would not shy away from Wang Ling when they exercised. After morning exercise, Wang Ling had breakfast and bought some fresh meat, then returned to the dormitory and stayed there until the evening as usual. This night, Wang Ling did not go to the cafeteria again. Instead, he left the school with Xiaohe and went out to buy beer and skewers. Although life remains the same, you can still enjoy it occasionally, right? However, what Wang Ling didn't expect was that something unexpected happened tonight. I just learned about the uproar on the internet today, and I have been debating for a long time whether to post these 2 chapters or not. However, after thinking about it for a long time, I decided to update. Regardless of whether it is updated or not, both parties have reasons. As a member of the Internet Writers, I am also very aware of the focus of the matter and the vital interests of the Internet Writers group. However, to protest in this way, to be honest, I don't know whether it will be effective or even effective. Opposite effect. In fact, as far as I am concerned, after working hard at Yuan for 5 or 6 years, I now have mixed feelings about Yuan. However, from the bottom of my heart, I do not want Yuan to deteriorate. I still have a trace of hope for Yuan deep in my heart. And this expectation lies in tomorrow's symposium. I hope this symposium can have a satisfactory result. Let's wait and see whether we will personally experience the decline of the online literature industry, or whether we can witness the rapid rise of online literature with our own eyes. My cousin is getting married in a few days, and we will have to go to the city for a few days. It is inevitable that we will ask for leave. However, if we can update these days, we still have to continue to update. Finally, I want to complain. I am anxiously waiting for when my adventure notebook will be unblocked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 660. A university can often drive many surrounding industries, such as internet cafes, KTVs, restaurants, shopping malls, snack streets, etc. Wang Ling and his party had seen this dazzling array of shops outside the Sports Institute. However, the Institute of Physical Education is considered a formal university after all, while Wang Ling's School of Economics is just an unknown pheasant university with too few students, and the surrounding shops are far less prosperous. But once it's evening, there are still many food stalls near the school entrance. No matter how many students there are in the school, there are many people buying various snacks here every night. This is where Wang Ling is aiming tonight. Xiao He, a black-backed dog, also belongs to Fan Tao, a large dog. He has received rigorous training from Wang Ling in the Red Alert world and is full of combat effectiveness. However, since he was resurrected in the real world and has been staying by Wang Ling's side, this guy has also put away all his ferocity, only showing a naive appearance, and even looks very clumsy at times. This appearance is extremely confusing. In addition, Wang Ling would take it out from time to time, and many people had seen it, so in addition to scaring some people at the beginning, people inside and outside the school also accepted Xia He's ideas. Being there, you won't be afraid of anything even if you pass by. After saying hello to the guard, Wang Ling took Xiao He out of the school gate and patted Xiao He's head. Go and play by yourself. Don't run too far. We'll go back after shopping. Woof woof. Xiao He became happy as soon as he heard this and ran away as if having fun. Although he likes to stay with Wang Ling, Xiao He is still a dog after all, and he is only about 2 years old and very playful. He finally leaves school. Of course, he wants to enjoy it while Wang Ling is shopping. They had a lot of fun, jumping around and leaving Wang Ling's side soon. However, Wang Ling is not worried about this guy. When the time comes, no matter how far away he is, he will run over and circle around the things Wang Ling bought for a long time. After letting Xiao He go, Wang Ling walked around as usual, ordered a lot of skewers, and even grilled some sausages without seasoning for Xiao He. While waiting, he also went to a nearby canteen, bought some peanuts, and picked up a beer. He was obviously going to enjoy it tonight. Next to the School of Economics, the business of the barbecue stall was quite booming. Wang Ling waited nearby for a long time, and finally waited until he got his things. After carrying all his things, he shouted, "Xiao He." Usually, after this shout, Xiao He would bark twice, no matter how far away he was, and then run over as fast as he could. But today, more than 10 seconds passed after Wang Ling shouted, but no dog barking could be heard at all, and Xiao He could not be seen. Where did this silly guy go? Wang Ling was still a little confused for a moment and couldn't help shouting twice more. However, there was still no trace of Xiao He. Wrong. At this time, Wang Ling was a little worried. If it is another dog that goes crazy and runs away, and the owner yells and refuses to answer, that is normal. However, Xiao He is definitely not in this fan tao. Based on Wang Ling's understanding of Xiao He, no matter how crazy he plays or how far he runs, if Wang Ling calls out, he will arrive as soon as possible. This is it's different from other dogs. Did something happen? But it shouldn't be. No matter how stupid Xiao He is still a police dog, and he trained it himself. With its strong attack power, how can ordinary people beat it? Thinking of this, Wang Ling deliberately ran away and called several times, but there was still no trace of Xiao He, so Wang Ling became anxious. I'm afraid something really happened to this idiot. Subconsciously, Wang Ling thought there was a car accident, so he quickly put the beer skewers on the side of the road, and then ran to the nearby roads like flying, checking all the way, but there was no sign of Xiao He. Xiao He, where did you go, you bastard? You're so anxious. After searching all the streets that Xiao He might have visited, Wang Ling was really anxious and gritted his teeth. Even though he was a temporary commander in the Red Alert world, he could always remain calm even in the face of cruel battles, but now that Xiao He suddenly disappeared, he was really panicked. Xiao He even starved himself to death in order to wait for Wang Ling in the Red Alert world. In this regard, Wang Ling always thought that he owed Xiao He a lot and wanted to use his time in the real world to compensate for it. Stay with it? But now, when it was time to buy something, Xiao He lost it? Wouldn't this make Wang Ling anxious? After looking around for a long time, Wang Ling was anxious and confused for a long time. Finally, he suddenly had an idea and thought of a way. So he took advantage of the time when night fell to quickly run to the surrounding flower bed area and find an empty place. He contacted Uncle He and temporarily summoned all the trainers who had come into contact with Xiao He at the Red Alert World Police Dog Training Base. Black vortexes like black holes flashed in front of his eyes, and silhouettes of people emerged from them. Take a step forward. Among them, the commander Luo Qiang, the person in charge Lu Hui, and acquaintances such as Skinny Monkey, Fat Tiger, Fat Ox, etc. were all listed, as well as other trainers and staff of the same period, who had seen Xiao He, all appeared there. Here. From the moment they were summoned, this group of people had been instilled with systematic cognition and memory. They knew their identities and origins, and also knew that Wang Ling was their absolute superior. A group of people suddenly appeared in the real world. It's inevitable to feel a little sad. However, Wang Ling was also in a hurry now and did not give them much time to adapt. He quickly interrupted the group of people. You should know each other's identities now. I will spend some time with you in the real world just catching up on old times. But that can't happen now. When I was buying something, Xiao He disappeared. Xiao He. Upon hearing this name, Fei Niu, Lu Hui, and others suddenly trembled. Has Xiao He been resurrected in the real world? They, who had witnessed Xiao He's stubbornness with their own eyes, were deeply moved and heartbroken by him. Of course they would also be excited when they heard the news of Xiao He's resurrection. Wang Ling nodded and forced himself to stay calm. Yes, with the help of the system, I resurrected Xiao He and made up for it in the real world. However, now Xiao He doesn't know where he is. He is everywhere on the street. I don't know what happened, so I called you out to help search for it together. You have also been in contact with Xiao He, so you should recognize it, and it will remember you. Problem occurs. Hearing the news again, Fei Niu and others seemed to be in disbelief. no, Xiao He is so fierce. Who can do anything to him? Wang Ling gritted his teeth. If you're not afraid of 10,000, you're afraid of just in case. No more gossip, all of you listen, take off your helmet, military rank, and put away all other things that look like soldiers. Around here search for me within a 5-kilometer radius. If you can't find it within 5 kilometers, search for 10 kilometers. Even if you turn everything upside down, you will still find Xiao He. Yes, sir. A group of people hurriedly responded to the order, but just as they were about to take action, Wang Ling suddenly said, "Wait a minute." As he spoke, he suddenly became silent for a while, and then a group of black whirlpools appeared next to these people, and police dogs emerged from them. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 661. Woof woof. Woof woof. Woof woof. After this group of police dogs appeared, they immediately saw their respective trainers. They immediately barked and waggled their tails and went to find them. That's right, Wang Ling's temporary solution was not only to use this group of trainers to search for Xiao He, but also to use police dogs. I don't know how many of this batch of police dogs have forgotten Xiao He and his smell, but even if only one remembers it, there is hope that he can be found. Baby. Wang Wang. Dahan. Dot. As for this group of trainers, after seeing their respective police dogs, they also had different expressions. Some were quite happy and familiar, stroking the heads of the police dogs, but there were also some trainees who cried when they looked at their police dogs. In the world of Red Alert, after all, we are in a war era. All police dogs are not trained for no reason. As long as they are trained to a passing level, they will go to the battlefield. Once you enter the battlefield, life or death is a matter of life. Most of these crying trainers have already parted ways with their police dogs on the battlefield, or they themselves have died in battle. With the help of Wang Ling's summons, they finally met their beloved dog again. They missed him so much that they inevitably cried with joy. However, Wang Ling didn't have time to let them reminisce too much now, so he interrupted directly and said, "Control your emotions, you are reunited now, but Xiao He doesn't know where he is yet." As the summoner, Wang Ling is their absolute superior. Even if they are summoned by other team leaders or even commanders of the same status, they must obey Wang Ling's orders in the real world. After the group of trainers and police dogs heard the sound, they immediately stopped crying. Even Fei Niu still vowed, "Don't worry, Brother Ling, we will do our best to find Xiao He." Wang Ling nodded and finally said, "This is the real world, not like the Red Alert world. If you lead a police dog to look for Xiao He, you will inevitably be seen by a group of people. But there is no need to be taboo. If someone asks, you can ignore it. Or just say that you are a firefighter and you are looking for a police dog, but if you have too many things to do and keep asking endless questions, then I will beat him." "Yes, sir." "Disband. Find Xiao He and have the police dog come and notify me immediately." After receiving the order, a group of trainers and police dogs immediately dispersed and spread in all directions with great tacit understanding. For a while, the sounds of little black and bark could be heard endlessly. Many trainers were shouting hysterically, and the police dogs were barking all the time. Some police dogs were even constantly sniffing the ground, trying to identify Xiao He's scent. After all, they were soldiers and police dogs from the war world. This group of people was very fast and efficient. Within a moment, they had left Wang Ling's sight and were looking for farther places. Wang Ling has always stayed in the flower bed area. It's not that he doesn't want to follow, but in terms of search, his personal power is indeed limited, not even as good as a police dog. It is better to wait here, just in case there is a police dog. If you find it and come back to inform him but you can't find anyone, wouldn't that be ruined? Although Wang Ling was impatient now, he could only force himself to calm down. At this point, we can only trust these trainers and police dogs. Xiao He. Xiao He. Woof woof. Woof woof woof. Sniff sniff. Wang Ling suppressed his impatience and waited, but the other trainers and police dogs were now so busy that they were all shouting. After all, this place is on the edge of the county town, and it is also next to a university. There are naturally a lot of people coming and going. This kind of shouting and searching will inevitably attract the attention of many passers-by. However, despite Wang Ling's instructions, this group of people didn't care about anything at all, they just focused on shouting and searching. Who are these people? Why do we suddenly have a group of strangers here? I don't know either. I was shopping when I heard the barking of Little Hay and Little Hay, and there were also a group of dogs that looked like police dogs. They all seemed to be looking for this Little Hay. Who is Little Black? Looking at the name, it's probably a police dog, right? Leading the police dog to look for the police dog. Could these people be members of the army? Don't tell me, I actually stopped one and asked. He was from the army, but it was the fire brigade. This is a group of firefighters, leading a group of police dogs to find a lost police dog. It's true. But why are these clothes so weird? Why haven't I seen it on TV? And what happened to the police dog? Why did it get lost? Ahem, don't ask so many questions. I stopped him and asked one more question. He was so anxious that he wanted to hit me. Fortunately, I shut up in time. It seems that this police dog should belong to a big shot, otherwise this group of people shouldn't be so anxious. Then should we also help look for it? How do we find it? Do you know what that little black guy looks like? Does he know us? And look, this group of firefighters and a group of police dogs are working so hard. How can we help? If we don't cause trouble, we can't do anything to them. To say the least, thank God. That's right, Hannah, I wish them to find Xiao He soon. Conversations like this have occurred frequently over a long period of time. After all, the impact of a group of trainers and police dogs being dispatched has been too great. However, fortunately, Wang Ling had ordered them to take off all items related to their identity, leaving only the red clothes they brought from the Red Alert world. They were quite deceptive and looked a bit like firefighters. Firefighters searching for a police dog on a large scale are rare, but not impossible. As for their identities, those who are interested would like to ask more, but if you ask too much, you will get anxious and get beaten. Who dares to ask more? Without these worries, a group of trainers and police dogs set out to search, which is called unscrupulous. They couldn't be found in streets, alleys, etc., and they even started to break into shops, and they even brought police dogs with them. There are no shops to be found, and they even break into private houses, skipping the main entrance and climbing over walls. In this area, there are really no dead ends left. As for the shops and houses that were broken into, naturally some timid people were frightened by this posture and the police dogs, but more people expressed their understanding and were completely open to it. Some bosses and house owners even took the initiative to cooperate in the search. Time passed by in a hurry, and with such searching, nearly an hour passed quickly. By this time, the sun had completely set, night had fallen, and the light of street lights flashed on the roadside. However, there were no lights in the flower bed area where Wang Ling was, and it looked pitch black. Wang Ling was sitting in the darkest corner, clenching his fists, waiting hard. You bastard, how can you be so beautiful, don't let anything happen. Woof woof. While waiting, Wang Ling suddenly heard the sound of a dog barking in the distance, and his heart was filled with excitement. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 662. Xiao He. Concern leads to confusion. When he first heard the barking of the dog, Wang Ling subconsciously thought it was Xiao He and stood up suddenly. However, just as he stood up, he suddenly realized that this was not Xiao He. If he came back so easily, why would Wang Ling send out so many people and police dogs to find him? If it wasn't Xiao He, then it was very likely that other police dogs found Xiao He's traces and came to call him. Thinking of this, Wang Ling became very excited, but when he looked towards the source of the sound, he found Erha slowly strolling out of the light outside the street, followed by its owner. Feelings, this is a dog walker nearby. Cut. Seeing this Erha, Wang Linky did not burst out, but instantly released a faint mental pressure, covering the entire flower bed area, and gradually strengthening its deterrence. At the beginning, this deterrent effect was relatively small. Most people would just have some palpitations, but it was not too exaggerated. But that Erha was different. This guy was quite sensitive and timid, and he noticed this deterrent effect almost immediately. Immediately frightened out of his wits, he screamed "Wee View" twice, and then fled the area regardless of the strange look in his master's eyes. After Erha left, the deterrent force was further strengthened. People who were still walking and lingering in the bright edge of the flower bed felt the gradually increasing heart palpitations. They couldn't bear it anymore and hurriedly left the place. Wang Ling himself was the only one left in the area. It was only then that Wang Ling realized that he had indeed gone crazy out of desperation. Although the dog bark just now was loud, it had a milky sound to it, which was quite different from police dogs like Xiao He. Most people can't hear it, but Wang Ling, who has been a trainer for a period of time, can still hear it. How could he hear it wrong on ordinary days? Today it is true that care leads to chaos. There are not many people keeping dogs near the school, but there are still some, but Wang Ling rarely encounters them on weekdays. It happened that he bumped into her today, and that was the reason why she made a mistake. After all the excitement in vain, Wang Ling is still very angry inside. Instead of weakening, this mental pressure has intensified, causing everyone nearby to feel heartfelt heart palpitations whenever they get close to this place. Anyone who dared to take another step would stay far away. But Wang Ling can be quieter if he stays inside. There is no other way, now we can only continue to wait. Now that Xiao He's condition is unknown, Wang Ling becomes more anxious every minute he waits. And under such anxiety, more than 20 minutes passed. Woof woof. Just as Wang Ling was pacing back and forth anxiously, he heard the rough and powerful barking of a dog again. Although Wang Ling was still impatient this time, he was a little more rational. He immediately recognized that the barking belonged to a police dog, and the surrounding area was always covered with the pressure of his mental power. Except for police dogs, ordinary dogs could not do anything at all. Don't dare to come in. Hearing this sound and making this judgment, Wang Ling's eyes immediately lit up. He looked towards the source of the sound, and sure enough he found a black-backed creature running towards him in a hurry. Niu Mo. Have you found Xiao He? Dogs such as police dogs, of the same breed, basically look the same, and it is difficult for ordinary people to distinguish them carefully. Wang Ling couldn't tell who the other police dogs were, but he remembered Xiao He clearly, and the other one was the bull demon. After all, Wang Ling was certainly deeply impressed by the ferociousness of the fat cow that he bit into a cripple. Woof woof. When the bull demon came near Wang Ling and heard his question, he immediately barked twice, then bit Wang Ling's trouser leg and pulled it back. This meaning has become obvious. If Wang Ling is asked to follow it, it will probably be found. Quick, lead the way, the faster, the better. Wang Ling was worried and felt a burst of ecstasy. After hearing this, the bull demon released his mouth and immediately ran in one direction, with Wang Ling following closely behind. The police dog ran extremely fast, but Wang Ling was faster than the police dog. The bull demon let go and ran wildly. Wang Ling followed behind and never fell behind. One person and one dog ran like this one after another, crossing 4 avenues and crossing most of the county town, and then suddenly turned into a trail, entered the ancient city and village, and then turned around in the trail. This is also thanks to the fact that police dogs have strong ability to recognize roads. Otherwise, even Wang Ling would not be able to remember the way with such a trick. Finally, after walking around the ancient city and village for several minutes, Wang Ling was taken into a small alley. This small alley seemed very dark because there were no street lights. As soon as he entered, Wang Ling heard a large number of dog barks mixed together. It was impossible to tell whether Xiao Hei's voice was among them. However, since the bull demon brought Wang Ling here, he was probably right. After arriving at the alley, the bull demon immediately slowed down, and Wang Ling did not rush to shout and bark. One man and one dog went directly to the deepest part of the alley, and stopped outside an old-fashioned gate. The barking dogs, all the sounds come from here. Is this a dog cellar? Xiao Hei was caught here. Wang Ling was confused and anxious, and was about to push open the door and search for it, but suddenly he heard Fei Niu's voice, "Brother Ling." This sound was specifically suppressed by Fat Niu. It was very subtle and was obviously being hidden. Wang Ling followed the sound and looked towards the roof, and sure enough he found Fat Niu lying on the roof. Fat Cow had his leg bitten by the bull demon, but his basic skills are still there, including climbing over a wall to get into a house. Fat Niu, is Xiao Hei inside? Not knowing what he was trying to do, Wang Ling asked in a low voice. And Fei Niu replied, "Here you are, Brother Ling, come up and have a look too." Good. Wang Ling moved in response, followed the wall, and landed on the roof in twos and twos. His movements were very gentle and made almost no sound. After falling, Wang Ling knelt down like a fat cow and turned to look into the courtyard. There is nothing unusual about this courtyard as a whole, it is just an ordinary folk courtyard. However, there are more than 20 dog cages in this courtyard, most of which contain various types of dogs. The large dog cage on the outermost edge was the most obvious. There was a black haystack inside. Wang Ling recognized it at a glance. Isn't this his little hay? With the help of the faint fluorescent light coming from the room, Wang Ling discovered that Xiao Hei was constantly rushing into the dog cage, but every time he stepped back, he was a little slow, because there was a lot of blood on his right front paw. All the claws showed an exaggerated posture, and they were obviously severely fractured. Outside the dog cage, there was a large animal trap with blood stains on it not yet drying up, and a large cloth bag next to it. Seeing this, Wang Ling immediately realized that Xiao Hei had been captured by the dog dealer through a bear trap. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 663. Hoo. Seeing Xiao Hei's appearance, Wang Ling felt an angry fire rising up in his heart. His breath was vibrating, and a strong mental pressure slowly spread to the surroundings. His hands and feet, as soon as he moved, he wanted to force his way in and rescue Xiao Hei. However, when Fei Niu came into contact with this mental pressure, he was also agitated, and then he quickly grabbed Wang Ling and persuaded in a low voice, "Brother Ling, don't be impulsive. Xiao Hei has found it, and now we are watching. Nothing will happen, just calm down." Wang Ling was still furious. Even though he stopped, he didn't say a word. He just turned to look at the fat cow. The mental pressure was still increasing, so strong that even the fat cow felt a little frightened. Suppressing the horror, Fei Niu said, "Brother Ling, I know you are very strong and you killed these dog dealers effortlessly, but are you just planning to save Xiao Hei?" Putting this question aside, Wang Ling was stunned for a moment. After regaining his composure, he finally calmed down and was quickly withdrawn before the mental pressure spread into the living room. At this time, Fei Niu breathed a sigh of relief and explained, We are all police dog trainers, and we love dogs from the bottom of our hearts. Seeing that more than 20 dogs were caught, who would feel better? Who has not experienced this? The trained dogs will not follow us obediently. The two of us can only save them once at most, but we can't take them away. Sooner or later they will be captured. I have asked the bull demon to call other police dogs and trainers. With their help, we can raid this dog dealer and take away all the dogs. Okay, just as you said. However, if something happens to Xiaohei, I won't wait any longer. Wang Ling took a deep breath and accepted Fat Niu's argument, but still kept the bottom line. Now that he had decided, Wang Ling suppressed his previous impulse, forced himself to be patient, and continued to crawl on the roof, waiting to observe the situation. During this process, Xiaohei had also seen Wang Ling. He was still banging against the iron cage like crazy, but now he suddenly calmed down and just looked at Wang Ling on the roof, sticking out his tongue. After a while, he actually lay down directly and licked his broken front paw. Has it given up? No, it was because he knew Wang Ling would definitely save it, so there was no need to hit the cage like a self-harm. For Wang Ling, it trusts him from the bottom of his heart. Seeing Xiaohei like this, Wang Ling felt a little bit of pain in his heart. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, enduring it hard. Although Xiaohei is smart, and as a police dog resurrected from the red alert world, he is full of combat power and has instant killing power against infantry, but this guy is still a dog after all, and his mind is very simple. When facing a cunning dog dealer, he has no intention. Be careful, you will inevitably get caught. However, the price of this path is too high. While waiting, Wang Ling used the faint light coming from the living room to carefully observe the courtyard. In this courtyard, in addition to the number of dog cages, there are several wing rooms, a toilet in the corner, and in addition, there is a messy area. Wang Ling took another look at this area and found that there seemed to be some bright lights shining here. After a closer look, he saw that there were all kinds of knives. There are still some remains around these knives. If you look closely, you can see that these are the body parts of some dogs. This bloody scene makes people feel chilling. Although the battle in the red alert world itself symbolizes cruelty, Wang Ling has even killed countless enemy soldiers with his own hands, but when he saw this, he was filled with anger, and his clenched fists were trembling, as if he might not be able to bear it at any time. Just like rushing in. Hey, Lu Lauer, if you want to talk about this dog meat, the puppy's meat is more tender. The old dog's meat is a bit too chewy. Just when Wang Ling was getting angry, the sound of conversation came from the living room. Wang Ling simply suppressed his anger and eavesdropped. Of course, so I don't sell any puppies to the restaurant. I keep them all for myself. Why should I give them to others when I can enjoy this blessing? If someone from the restaurant comes to choose, I will take those puppies and eat them myself. If the dog's legs are broken or killed in advance, we just won't sell it to them. Haha, you Lu Lauer is still cunning. Speaking of Lu Lauer, you are a dog dealer who really knows how to enjoy life. You catch stray dogs everywhere, keep the puppies for yourself, sell the old and sick ones to restaurants, and sell the strong ones to the dog market. There is no shortage of them. Eating meat and living such a nourishing life as a child is really enviable. Ahem, you only see dog dealers eating dog meat, but you don't see dog dealers being bitten by dogs. Do you know how many rabies vaccines I need to take throughout the year? Fortunately, I have experience in recent years, and there are fewer dog bites. If we do, we can save a lot of expenses. When we save enough money, we can also marry a wife, hee. I said your life was moisturized when you were young, but you really became moisturized, ha ha ha. Hey, listen, that silly dog that has been hitting the cage outside seems to have stopped. I have seen that dog specially, and it is still wearing a collar, which means it has an owner. Lu Lauer, why did you give this dog to caught? Well, I'm probably tired. I don't know who raised this silly dog. So what if it has an owner? A dog is a dog, but it's just my property. If I catch it, I'll catch it. Its owner is worried. What does it have to do with me? You will forget about it in 2 days, and at worst, you will have to buy another one. Anyway, these dog owners are not short of money. You don't know, there are fewer and fewer stray dogs around this county. My business is not as good as it used to be. Sometimes I even have to sell some puppies. If I can't find them, I can only target these pet dogs with owners, catch them and run away while their owners are away. Don't I underestimated this silly dog, but it was so cruel. I even used a bear trap when I caught it, and it almost bit me. But after I caught it, I just broke one of its claws and threw it put it in the biggest cage to prevent this stupid dog from being restless. Hey, is it so vicious? I don't know who raised it. What if it bites someone? It's better to catch it, so as not to let it harm others in the future. Hee hee, that's right. By the way, this silly dog looks quite big, but it's actually not that old. It's just a little older than other puppies. This dog meat should be good. Anyway, the leg is broken, so I don't think so. It's going to be sold to a restaurant, so why don't we just kill it now and add some food? How about some fresh dog meat? Hee hee, okay. I've known you for so long, but I've never seen you kill a dog. I'll just consider it an eye-opener today. Brood. Wang Ling heard the whole conversation. When he heard the end, he was so angry that his whole body was trembling with anger. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 664. The silly dog those people and the dog dealer were talking about was obviously Xiao He. Back in the Red Alert World, because he wanted to avenge his instructor and overcome his mental obstacles to return to the battlefield, he had to bid farewell to Xiao He. In the end, he starved himself to death in order to wait for Wang Ling, leaving Wang Ling with a long period of time. The pain of time. Finally, with the help of the extra-dimensional system, Xiao He was successfully resurrected. However, due to his own negligence, he was arrested again and was treated as a target for slaughter by the dog dealer. If Wang Ling hadn't reacted quickly and summoned the trainer and police dog come out to assist in the search, I'm afraid Xiao Haika will really be murdered tonight. How can Wang Ling not be angry about this? He was so angry that he couldn't help but let go of the mental pressure. It was obviously an illusory mental power, but it made the rubble of the brick house tremble. These bastards. This time, not only Wang Ling, but also Fat Niu got angry. His clenched fists were so hard that his whole arm was shaking. Crunch. Haha, it's a good day to come here. With the good food, you can also learn a lot. I've heard that you, Lu Lao, are good at killing dogs, and today I can finally see it with my own eyes. While Wang Ling and Fei Niu were furious, the people in the living room had already finished their discussions and were planning to go out and take action. There were only 3 of them, all around 40 years old. The leader was a bald man with a round face, a fat head and big ears, and there were some blood stains on his body. He was probably the real dog dealer Lu Lao. There were 2 people behind him. One was slovenly and had a stubble on his face, while the other looked more elegant on the surface. He was wearing a white shirt, but he gave people a sinister look. These 3 people are laughing very freely now, but in the eyes of Wang Ling and Fei Niu, they always feel very cold, so cold that they make people angry. Xiao He's dog cage was the closest to the living room, and the courtyard itself was not that big. The few people approached the dog cage within a few steps after walking out of the living room. But just when Lu Lao was about to take out the key to unlock the door, suddenly, a strong blue light, accompanied by a strong current, suddenly hit the gap between Lu Lao and the little black dog cage, forcibly separating them. Then, Wang Ling couldn't wait any longer and jumped directly from the roof, landing exactly where the electric shock was. Wang Ling promised to wait for other trainers before, but now that Xiao He is in danger, what reason does he have for not coming forward? Lu Lao originally planned to show off and perform surgery on Xiao He, but suddenly there was such a change, and the three of them were frightened. The strong current, even from a distance, caused their scalps to burn. He was numb and his face ached. "Who are you?" However, although he was a dog dealer, Lu Lao was still a butcher after all, and he was always braver than others. He was the first to calm down and question Wang Ling. Snapped. But Wang Ling didn't answer at all. Instead, he threw out his hand and slapped Lu Lao in the face. Wang Ling was already controlling the force of this slap, otherwise he might really slap the person to death. But even if he restrained his strength, this slap almost made Lu Lao fly up. He spun in the air for several weeks and landed on the ground. He fell to the ground with his whole body covered, and that half of his face soon became swollen. The bearded man and the man in the shirt were startled again when they saw it, but they were not immune. Before they could recover, Wang Ling punched the bearded man away, knocked out half of his teeth, and kicked him again. He kicked the man in the shirt on the lower abdomen, sending him flying 3 meters. After landing, he knelt down on the ground and bent over exaggeratedly like a lobster. Although this series of actions sounds complicated, it was actually completed in less than 2 seconds after Wang Ling started. It was so fast that the three of them didn't even realize what was going on. Now they were all wailing on the ground. Wang Ling looked at the three of them and was still angry, but the most important thing now was to free Xiao He. After turning around, in front of the three of them, Wang Ling grabbed the lock and the surrounding iron bars with one hand. There was a crackling flash on his hand, and the powerful current destroyed it unscrupulously. In a moment, the lock and the iron bars were destroyed. The iron bars around him were crushed into a pile of scrap metal, which Wang Ling threw away casually. Boom! When the scrap metal fell to the ground, Lu Lao and the other three couldn't help but feel a little thump in their hearts, and an unprecedented panic spread. The man in the shirt even wailed and complained, Lu Lao, why are you such a coward? What kind of person have you provoked? Even iron can be kneaded like this." The bearded man lost half of his teeth and couldn't speak clearly, but he could barely hear the words "kicked the iron plate." Wang Ling didn't pay attention to them for a while. He just opened the door of the dog cage and carefully took Xiao He out. There were no iron bars underneath the dog cage, and there were floor tiles. The super electric shock just now only damaged the door lock area and did not affect Xiao He. Seeing Wang Ling come to the rescue, Xiao He seemed to be very excited, and kept shouting woo woo as if he was complaining. After taking Xiao He out, the exaggerated curve of his front paws made Wang Ling's heart tremble. If he accidentally touched it, Xiao He screamed in pain, which made Wang Ling angry and distressed. "Xiao He, you are suffering. It's all my fault for not taking good care of you." With trembling hands and a few words of comfort to Xiao He, Wang Ling immediately called the fat cow down and left Xiao He to take care of him temporarily. After putting down Xiao He, Wang Ling's originally pitiful eyes instantly turned into almost substantial flames, and he walked towards Lu Lao step by step. You. After seeing Wang Ling's terror, Lu Lao was frightened, trembling, and even stuttered when he spoke, "Don't come over." "Who are you? Don't come over." But how could Wang Ling listen to him? He walked closer step by step and came to Lu Lao. He raised his leg and kicked Lu Lao under the door. At the same time, he scolded, "You ask who I am? You bastard, you stole from me. I tortured my beloved dog to this point and even killed it, and then ask me who I am? Did I live like a dog at such an old age?" As he spoke, Wang Ling approached Lu Lao again, and kicked Lu Lao over with another flying kick. Wang Ling was so angry that he couldn't control the force of this kick. He kicked Lu Lao until blood started to flow from the corner of his mouth, and his whole head was buzzing. but Wang Ling still didn't let him go, kicking him one after another, and scolding him while kicking him, "If I come here a little later, Xiao He will be killed by you. You bastard, your conscience has been eaten by dogs. All dogs are your property? Bah! You trample on life wantonly, you are not as good as a dog. Dot.